Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, Nonprofit Marketing Plan Strategy for a More Just and Equitable Recovery. Our presenter today is Deon Stokes of Joint Effort Business and Marketing Consulting, who will offer insights and strategies around crafting marketing plans with a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens. Hopefully can help us as nonprofits position ourselves for a swift, strong, and more equitable recovery. But before we go any further, I just want to take a brief moment to review the functionality of the Zoom webinar. Right now I have everyone on mute to avoid all the background noises that may distract us from listening to the webinar. For the presentation today, we'll be using the chat functions on occasion throughout the presentation. However, if you do have a question, if you could please enter them in the Q&A box. You can locate that by clicking the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you see a question that is similar to yours, you can tap the thumbs up icon to the left of that question, and it will move the question to the top of the queue, so make sure that we get to it. We will answer questions at the end of Deon's presentation. For any questions that we don't happen to get to by the time that we end at 10:15 today, we will answer offline and follow up via email. The webinar is being recorded, and a link to the video will be emailed to all who have registered by the end of the day tomorrow. And then I just also want to take a brief moment to thank our members and our supporters and our board of directors who enabled us to bring you this webinar today. Since the pandemic crisis, we have been able to bring you some of the very best thinking about how to navigate this crisis free to members. If you are a member and your membership is up for renewal, I hope you will consider renewing. And if you are not yet a member and find value in the session today and any other associated resources or support, I hope you will consider joining. Now, I'm happy to introduce our presenter this morning. Deon Stokes brings more than 15 years of business and marketing experience. As a serial entrepreneur, she can be characterized as a visionary, strategist, and results-driven tactician. Deon is the CEO of Joint Effort Business and Marketing Consulting and the founder of The Failure Report, a web series that tells stories of successful failures. Her mission is to invest in small business and nonprofit agencies through a straightforward and strategic methodology of providing a comprehensive business plan, branding, and inbound marketing tactics. With that, I want to thank Deon for her time today. Welcome, Deon, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much for having me today, and thank you all as members and guests for being in the room today. Like we stated, it is a good rainy day, but a good day to learn, get some things done, get your thinking caps on. I am actually going to screen share here as we get started. Let's see if I can get this into present mode. So thank you, Murph, for that wonderful introduction. As you stated, I am the CEO of Joint Effort, a marketing agency. We're a forensic marketing agency that offers consulting and marketing solutions for nonprofits and small businesses. I have been honestly blessed to be able to work in this position for over 15 years. I've worked as a political consultant and working in public relations and marketing for 13 years. And I actually just retired from that not too long ago, which has been greatest joy of my life. But now I really focus on offering solutions to the individuals who need it the most, in my opinion. Small businesses and nonprofits oftentimes have a really difficult time engaging their audience, understanding who their donor segments are, being able to convey their messages, all of those really just tough things. I'm sure all of those are just pinging words that everyone understands and knows. Those are things that we really like to focus on. But we call ourselves a forensic marketing agency because we are very much so research driven. So if we can't research it first, we actually don't set out and do it. It's kind of like reading your map before you actually start heading somewhere. I know you guys remember the days of MapQuest where you could print your map off and you could look at your map and knew where you were going, as opposed to, my Android tells me to turn left at the stop sign and I'm at the stop sign. You know what I mean? So I hate to know where I'm going or hope to get there while I'm already there, as opposed to being able to map that out beforehand. And that's exactly what we do. at Joint Effort is we actually really enjoy looking at a lot of market research, doing a lot of cross comparison, and then being able to implement a winning solution for the nonprofit and small businesses that we serve. So I'm going to start. This is a very laid back presentation. You guys will understand. I am very much so. It's really laid back person. So, but I want to start this presentation with a story. And I do have to warn you guys, I talk very black and white. I was joking with Merv earlier. It's like, I'm just a Black woman. This is a white man. This is a Latino woman. That's just the way that I speak. It's in no way, hopefully disrespectful to any culture, but it's just the way that I choose to present myself. So I'm going to start with this story. So this story started here in our beautiful city. I moved here to Louisville in 2014. And the only thing that I knew about Louisville before I moved here, my husband's job relocated us here, was that they were on the first 48. Dun, dun, dun. And that there was no Publix grocery store. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with Publix grocery store or from the South, but that was kind of heart-wrenching to me. And I was just like, my dear Publix, like, who's going to take my groceries to the car now? And so I got to this city and I was just ready to learn something new. I had lived in Huntsville, Alabama for 20 years. I'm originally from Tampa, Florida. When I moved there, and ended up staying. I attended Oakwood University, one of 3 HBCUs in a city about a quarter of this size, and so you can imagine the cultural diversity that is in a city that offers historically Black college and university in a city that also has a University of Alabama in Huntsville, which is a huge engineering school that also is very, very culturally diverse. So I moved here to Louisville, and I'm walking down the street. And I walked to my area Kroger. I won't say the neighborhood I was in. And I was checking out with my few bags of groceries because, I'm walking home. And the lady asked me if I'm paying with an EBT card. And for some reason, it caught me so off guard that I answered her. And I was like, no, I'm just using my debit card. And normal Deon would have been like, excuse me, why are you projecting this, it was unfair. I was so caught off guard that I just answered her. And I was like, no, I'm just using my debit card. And of course I walked away from that situation and was like, why did she believe that I would be using an EBT card? Now, me personally, I believe in offering subsidies to individuals who need it. And in the event that I ever need it, I would definitely take full advantage of the opportunities that are out there if I'm ever in that situation or ever in need. But for me to be making a personal transaction on this little device and for you to find the need to ask me what tenure I'm using was beyond my understanding. Yeah, it's not the days of giving someone your debit card, and having them create the transaction for you. And I walked away from that situation like, wow, that was so strange. But I just kind of let it roll off of me, And then it happened again at the same store. And it was at that point where I really took a look around at my neighborhood, and I took a look around in the store, and I realized that I was the only person of color there. And this is just a few weeks of me living here, and I was walking to or going shopping at some place, and I realized I was the only person of color there, and I was just confused because honestly, I lived in Alabama for 20 years. Now, all the stigmas that we have about Alabama, unfortunately, some of them are true. But I was honestly just shocked to see that I was in a city where I didn't see anyone that looked like myself. And then one day I happened to drive past 9th Street and I was shocked. That's the only word that I can use, is I was simply shocked. I didn't know the history of this city before I moved here. I didn't know that the 9th Street divide was something that everybody knows about, and everybody knows what it means and how it happened and kind of what it stands for in the city. It's kind of a really big black eye, for our city. I know we're working on that. And I was really anxious to just learn more. I wanted to understand, why this city was the way that it was, and to see how I could get involved. And I warned you guys, I worked in politics for many years. I started in local politics, and then worked, up through, state and, offering state, advice and strategic solutions to various politicians. And so I understand, all about redlining and all about some of the things that have happened in cities and how cities are working to make this better. But I just was very shocked after all the experiences that I had, and then to see what our city looked like whenever I passed the 9th Street divide. I was, like I said, the only word that I can use is shocked. So one day I was sitting in a board meeting, and I'm at a gorgeous boardroom at an organization, and I looked around and I didn't see anyone there that looked like me, which was, at this point, I had been there for in Louisville for about a year, which was completely normal. I had gotten accustomed. It wasn't like every day I came home, I didn't have the need to tell my husband, like, yeah, again, no one at these organizations, or no one here, there's no diversity in these organizations. After a while, it just became something that was normal and was no longer a topic of conversation. So you can imagine my surprise sitting at this boardroom, and I look down the boardroom table and I see this woman, and she was amazing. Again, maybe I'm at a loss for words today. I'm like, shocking, amazing, single word descriptive words today. But we were in the formation of Impact 5, which is a for-profit organization that provides back office services for nonprofits in the Louisville area. And this was my first executive board meeting out there. And she was telling the stats and understood that this, and was the CEO of that. And I literally was in awe for a change. I had nothing to say. I just watched her. And it was as if I was a child seeing somebody that looked like me for the first time, or watching like a star for the first time, because I had not experienced it. Another individual, let alone a woman of color, in a leadership position. And so shortly after that first or second meeting, I made my way to have a conversation with her, and I asked her if she wouldn't mind joining me for a café con leche. And of course, as she coins herself, the Cuban parakeet, absolutely was like, absolutely, we're definitely doing that. So we sat down over one coffee that turned into way too many, and we got to talking about the need in this city for a deeper conversation about how leaders of color can actually make it to the table. And for an individual who at that time had been in the business, had been a business professional for years, was in literal shock, at seeing another person of color at the table. And so we decided to start a podcast called Leading in Color. And on Leading in Color, we interview individuals here in Louisville who are leaders of color and or marginalized. And it has been an amazing podcast and an opportunity for us, and for me especially, as someone that was at that time, we've been in existence for a few years now, but we're new here, and really wanted to understand, where were the leaders of color? Where are we at the table? Where are we when I was going into these organizations, consulting or going to various board meetings or at networking events? I just didn't see anyone that looked like me, and I never thought I cared. I never thought I cared until I noticed that it didn't exist. And so we created this podcast, as I stated, to interview leaders of color who are marginalized and or women or of other ethnicities, various ethnicities, to discuss their unique position in the workforce and how we can better our city together. And it's really interesting because this number 7 is so representative of what I've experienced most recently. So since the pandemic, I have been asked to sit on several boards. And the first board invitation came, and I was, I was like, wow, that is so fantastic. Thank you so much for thinking of me. I'll definitely, consider it. And one after another, it took about 3 weeks before I hit 7 invitations in 3 weeks to join a board. And that's when I realized that I wasn't being asked to join the board because they thought I was so smart, or so intelligent or could bring something to the table. I truly questioned why all of these board invitations all of a sudden. And as I looked at our current climate and all the things that are going on in our world, I swiftly realized that everyone is looking around their boardroom table and they're seeing that there is no diversity there. They're looking around their boardroom tables and they're seeing that they have dropped the ball in the fact that everyone at the table was either a white male or white female, maybe, and they needed to infuse some diversity into their board. I can't say that I was excited about the third invitation or the fourth invitation or the seventh invitation. The seventh invitation is the one that hurt the most because it said, if it's maybe you know somebody like you that may be interested in joining the board. And it's just one of those things that I understand that it is necessary, but there's definitely a way that we infuse individuals into our board. Of course, none of these organizations, none, half of them aren't even in Louisville, know that this happened. You know what I mean? And everyone is trying to do the same thing, but it's just shocking. And I wanted to tell you the inside of what it looks like to a person of color who is being asked to join these boards. Because, you know, in January, I wasn't asked to join, but I had the same qualifications. In February, in 2018, I wasn't asked to join. You had my contact information then. He didn't reach out. And so I know that we're in a really tough situation. We're in a tough spot as nonprofits, as board leaders, as a culture. We're in a really tough spot. But I definitely was shocked. And my little emoji down there was just head blown because everyone is seeing that we have a problem. And I'm encouraged that even though it kind of was hurtful to me in some ways, that individuals were taking the initiative to step out and actually ask individuals to be on their board. Also, I'm sure a lot of you all are applying for grants, and this is a really, typically, peak grant season for some organizations. And a lot of grant applications are asking, what does your board look like? How diverse is your board? And they ask you what percentage of your board is made up of different ethnicities. I mean, individuals have really gotten pretty deep, into the wanting to understand, what it looks like and what your organization is made up of. So I decided to do a little case study. Oh, well, actually, I wanted to stop with this. Yeah, your board needs to look like those that you serve and the solution that you solve. And so that is, it's very difficult to do because you hate to then just pander to one ethnicity or another, but it's going to take diversity in order for us to actually be able to best serve the individuals that we seek to either serve or provide a solution for. But we need to definitely we need to figure out what it is that we're going to do to bring these individuals in. And my honest solution is to just ask. Again, that's an insider look into somebody's inbox and to know that they've been asked 7 times. But it truly is, it's nothing wrong with asking. You have to go out and at least engage individuals and say, hey, you know what? We are looking for diversity on our board. We have not had it before. We've gotten really comfortable. I have some tips and tricks on getting individuals to trust you. And that's one of them, is just admitting whenever you're wrong. We're wrong. We got comfortable. These people have been here for a long time. This person knew this person at the bank and they suggested them whenever their term was up. And it was just easy just to put somebody that was in closer proximity into this position as opposed to actually going outside of my nucleus to identify someone. It sounds extremely normal, but we've got to figure out how to break the mold because honestly, making decisions for someone who is not of your same ethnicity or gender is very difficult. It's a difficult position for you to be in as a board member, as a leader, and then you have to really identify if you're actually able to provide the best service for those that you are serving. So now we're getting on to the case study. So Horses and Heroes is an organization that I've worked for many years. They are out of Kansas City, Kentucky, no, my word, Kansas City. And they are they provide equine assisted therapy for individuals who are current or former military and first responders and their families. And they do this for absolutely free. And equine therapy is something that, of course, us here in Kentucky, we love our horses. And they do, of course, everywhere. And they're able to utilize the horses to be able to provide therapy for this demographic of individuals. So whenever I was brought in to their organization to provide marketing solutions for them, of course, they after they got to know me a little bit, they started saying, you know, we have a little bit of a problem. You'll be the first and only Black person that works for our organization. And I love using them as a case study because they're just so honest. And they are like, we don't know what to do. We serve a demographic that at this point, they had actually not served any other individual outside of white males or females. And they've been in existence for many, many years. However, it goes back to the individuals that work at their organization and the board members. Those are the mouthpieces for the services that they provide. So they tell individuals that they provide this service inside of their nucleus. And because it's been working and they've had success with it, they've actually never reached outside of that nucleus and invite even other individuals to receive their services. They're Black first responders. There's Latina first responders or military personnel, and they had never serviced any individuals in that sector. And so they, of course, made a strategic decision to say, Deon, we have a problem with our marketing because we're not speaking to everyone. And we definitely want to ensure that we're being culturally inclusive. And so, you know, I really have employed them to focus on, especially right now during this pandemic, that you have to focus on who you serve and the problem and solution that you solve. It's not about you as an organization. The organization right now, you know, we want to talk about, there's some back end things, of course, that you always have to do. But right now, it's about those that you serve. If you start marketing and updating your marketing strategy on the solution that you offer, as opposed to the problems that you all have with keeping your lights on and paying your mortgage or rent in the building that you're in, your donors are going to see the value in that, and they're going to continue to want to patron you, or to offer their donations to you. But what was most interesting about Horses and Heroes is that they had a know, like, and trust issue. And when I ask individuals, do your donors know, like, and trust you? Or not just your current, even your future donors? You know, they had a lot of holes in their answers. And so today I'm going to put together some solutions and some solutions, some suggestions, and pose some questions on how you can uplift your marketing strategy so that it injects equity and inclusion into everything that you do right now, especially in this current climate. So we're going to start with the no. What services does your nonprofit offer right now? And has it changed during the pandemic, and why? Your donors definitely want to be able to know that. You know, also, what is your beliefs during this climate? This is a really, really, really tough one, because the Horses and Heroes, admittedly, are a lot of things. They are female founded. They are not a faith-based organization, but their faith, the individuals who found the organization, is very important to them personally. And therefore, it is a thread that kind of runs through the services that they offer and the types of services that they provide. They have really strong beliefs on a lot of political positions, on a lot of organizations have either really won or really gotten in trouble, or a combination of the both, for injecting their beliefs into their organization. But it's one of these things in this day and age, a lot of donors want to know what you believe, because if your beliefs do not align with their beliefs, they have a hard time donating to you. Then it's a double-edged sword, because then if you say, you know what, I won't post anything about what I believe, I will stay completely out of that conversation, then they say, well, you have your head in the sand. You know what I mean? Going on around here, and you have absolutely nothing to say, no opinion on what's going on. Everyone has to take a stance at this point. No one is exempt from taking a stance, showing what you believe. And unfortunately, that can truly affect the individuals, your clients, your potential clients, or the people that you serve, and your donors. That is a difficult situation that you and your board are going to have to sit around and discuss, because are you going to be, all Black Lives Matter? Are you going to celebrate Pride Month? Are you going to have a statement on your website about your D and the Y statement, I statement? Is what is that going to look like? But it is important to let individuals know who you are and what it is that you believe. I would not ever think I would have to say this so fervently, even as early as beginning of this year, or even 3 months ago. But today, it is important for individuals to understand who you are. And individuals are aligning their philanthropic dollars with the individuals that they know. So if they feel as if they don't know you, or if you're hiding your hand because you don't want to be known, individuals are really seeing that as an opportunity or a weakness within an organization. Is your service still affected, and could you seek acquisition? This one is a really hard one. I've had more conversations over the last few months about acquisitions of nonprofits, and it's hard. I mean, it's the one thing that breaks my heart almost daily, and I'm a very sensitive person, because the work that you do, the time that you've put in, the unpaid hours that you've sacrificed, for all of that to have come to this precipice and for no reason of your own is hard. And what a lot of organizations are doing is they're identifying how they're going to be able to pivot. What is that going to look like, even for our marketing? If we're going to, if you have a food pantry and I have a food pantry, how are we going to be able to work together to be able to serve the same demographic? Or you're a food pantry. You've been always known as a food pantry, but now you're doing, PPE. Is that something that you do, or is it in addition to what you do? Individuals like to know what you do. We also live in a social media culture where I should be able to figure out where you are, what you ate, who you just had a meeting with. Even, even during a pandemic, that never stopped. We still want to know, hey, I'm coming to you live from my dining room, and this is what I ate today. This is how my kids are acting, while I'm trying to have this conference call. People like to know who you are. And in the event that you're in a situation where your services are not being effective, or you can't actually, provide that, there is this time where you may have to seek acquisition or look at combining or collaborating with another organization to continue to serve the individuals that you seek to serve, and to continue, and to make your organization stronger. That's a really tough one, but it is definitely something that your board needs to discuss, and it needs to be definitely implemented in your marketing strategy and how your voice goes forward in the future. Like I spoke about social media briefly. I don't know if hope you guys can see that part. I'm going to scoot this up a little bit. But individuals have to like you. What does your social media and your website say about your agency? It is so important, because that is your face. Your social, when I Google Horses and Heroes, the first thing that comes up is their website. The second thing that comes up is their social media or their Facebook handles. Everyone is interested in what it is that you do. What is your agent, if you say that you provide equine services for, military and first aid personnel, what is equine? Like, let's start there. If I don't know what that is, I'm more than likely going to go to your website. The moment that I see a horse, I'm going to say, oh yeah, that's right. I did know that, or I forgot all about those two things. Why don't you just call it horse therapy? Okay. But on your website or on your social media, that's where you would be able to have that content and to really be able to get individuals to like you. This is what we're doing today. We're doing yoga classes with our mini horses today. We're going to be able to provide XYZ service for this family, or this family came and they've been, they've had 13 sessions with us. And remember, I'm using Horses and Heroes as a case study. They've had 13 sessions with us. It's been really successful, and this is what they've learned. This is their testimonial, or this is their Facebook Live. This is their opportunity leave a testimonial on my website. This is where individuals actually get to like you. And right now, while we're just now starting to kind of lift this veil of the quarantine and getting back to business, this is definitely the time to reach out and make that personal phone call or send that personal email to individuals that you have serviced in the past and ask them for that testimonial, and tell them exactly why. I love this time because it's allowed individuals to be as honest as possible. I need your testimonial because we're trying to really increase our social media following. And individuals like whenever people like us. So I would really, really love if you could send us a testimonial so that we can boost our SEO ratings. Absolutely. I like your service. I think you guys are swell. You helped me whenever I needed help. What wouldn't I want to do for you? This is the time to be able to really be honest with individuals, because the reality of it is that we're all in this together. And I know that you've heard that so many times before, but whenever this pandemic first started, I was speaking with a vendor in Mumbai, and we had a video conference, and I'm sitting here at home, in my home office doing my work, and then I see them, at their houses doing the same thing, and it was at that moment that it really, really hit me, like, you're 7 hours, 8 hours, time difference, and you're in the same situation as I'm in. And, sometimes we forget that the whole world has been affected by coronavirus. And the whole world has had to make hard decisions and have furloughed employees and have lost, contracts. So your story isn't any different than anyone else's. And so this is the time to actually go out and find those individuals, find those great stories, and get individuals to like you. Individuals like honest people. They just do, even if it's to a fault. They just like them. And so what is your persona? Why does your persona donate to you? Your buyer persona is typically what we consider a persona, but a persona is a fictitious individual that an organization or your marketing team creates, and you create all of your marketing to that person. So, for instance, we have a number of personas, but if we are doing Money Mike likes to split up his money across multiple nonprofit organizations. He gives to the arts, he gives to children, and he gives to the homeless. That's what he does. And we know exactly why he does. We know if he's what social media platform he's going to be on. We know an average of what he's going to give on a monthly or annual basis. We know how to reach and contact that individual. We know what time of day to email them. If we email them, or if we send them a phone call. If we don't send a phone call, if we send a mailer. If we send a mailer, are we going to actually put an envelope in that mailer with a stamp on it and ask them to send us a check back? Is that going to be offensive for them to say, hey, you're spending my donation on stamps? I don't like that idea. Mike is very persnickety, and he likes things exactly the way that he likes them. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So in order to increase your marketing reach, you have got to create that persona. Because without it, you're speaking to everyone as opposed to the one person. If you find a way to be able to channel your conversation to that individual, anytime somebody visits your social media page, they're going to find themselves there. They're going to find things that resonate with them. They're going to find a tip or trick or solution that speaks directly to them. And they're going to be like, wow, every time I come to their website or every time I come to their social media, it's like they're pulling on my heartstrings. They know exactly what's going to make me give. They know exactly why giving is important to me. They know exactly how to ask me, for an annual, bi-monthly, weekly, which is a thing, donation. They know exactly how to do that. But it's time, to adapt even, either if you've not adapted a persona or to even adopt a new persona. We have, like I stated, we have multiple personas because we like to make sure we're speaking to various individuals and what their relation is to each other. So Mike is, married to Lucy, and Lucy and Mike have 4 children. They're adult children. They went to this university. They believe in this. They have this job. We give them identities so that whenever we're creating our content, we're actually able to speak to them. So when we talk about Lucy and Mike, we know exactly what they're going to do. They're not going to come to your event. Don't send them any free tickets. minimize your correspondence with them via email. Make sure that you send them a mailer. Do not put stamps on their envelopes. They have a lot of things that they like and don't like. That comes from research, but that also comes from just understanding and speaking to your persona, so that if and when they do come to your website or your social media page, they find it very, very easy to navigate, and they know exactly what it is that they're looking for. So how can you leverage diversity into likability? This is a huge, huge question that I've often been asked, because, there is a such thing as, making sure that you have a brown face in every photo, or continuing the conversation, or that's not the word. Merv and I were speaking about this earlier, just, showing the faces of individuals that you serve, if you can legally, and that kind of perpetuating the stereotypes that you are trying to work against. I hope that came across correctly. It's very difficult to do, because individuals, and I of course, just because I'm a Black woman, I see it differently, but I can tell whenever you were like, hey, we need to take a picture of our organization, let's pull in somebody Black so that we make sure that we have some diversity. We can tell. And it's not likable. It makes us laugh. You know what I mean? Whenever we see it, we're like, I mean, this person, you just pulled a random in off the street in order to add some, color to your picture, or you're posting way too much about, Muslims or Black people or queer people, and that's never who you've been before. Being tasteful it yields a lot into being likable, and it is so hard to do. I am not going to act like, oh, this is just so easy. All you have to do is just sprinkle them in here and there. Nobody will be able to tell. It's not the case. You really have to work with your marketing team and create an honest strategy on making sure that this is who you are consistently. This is not who you are for the next few months until individuals say this time dies down, or what have you. No, this needs to be something that you adopt over the long term, because you will find that you will be far more likable as an organization whenever you are consistent. Excuse me. I could say a lot more about that section, but I will keep my comments. This is the Instagram page of Horses and Heroes as of late. And I screenshotted this picture because, they know that they've taken the position of not saying anything. They've not said anything about Pride Month. They've not said anything about all of the things that are going on in our country or in their city with protest and cultural divide and unrest and uncertainty about even the pandemic. They've acted like nothing's happening, like everything is just fine. And their social media manager has identified the fact that she doesn't know what to say. So she hasn't said anything at all. And that's something that, a lot of us really suffer from, is saying that, I don't know what to say, so I'd rather not say anything. This is the time to really reach out and have those really tough conversations and admit, I don't know. I don't have the answer. I don't have the solution. I know I need to say something, but I don't know what to say. Building that relationship with an individual, with someone, to be able to ask them what is appropriate to say? How should I be able to say it? Like I said in the beginning, you don't have to call me African American. You can just call me Black. When you find a person that trusts you like that is honestly going to tell you the truth, it does help, kind of ease your shoulders a little bit about coming to them and asking them, I really want to do better. I want to be able to say something, but I don't know what to say, and I don't want to have any backlash because of it, because that's the hardest part about where we are right now and how we're going to emerge from this. Is individuals are aligning themselves with companies and organizations that have the same beliefs as they do. But when you don't show that you have a belief in anything, then no one is going to, I want to identify with you. It's just, unfortunately, plain and simple. If you don't stand for anything, why should anyone stand for you? And they have seen that as something that they're really, really trying to work on. They're trying to get the strength to find their position and to own it. They know that they may ostracize individuals, but as a board and as an organization, especially as your marketing team, which I highly suggest having your marketing executives or team or whomever sit in on the conversation with your board or in business meetings when you all are discussing these things, to be able to have a voice on how this is going to be presented to your public, because if you don't have their buy-in, if they don't also believe, it's going to convey that as well. I've worked with a few brands now who it's the belief of the organization, but it's not the belief of the person that's posting it. And so you can definitely see the hesitation in the way that they convey that message. It's definitely coming across to the viewers. So trust. Trust is the one that I'm going to end with today, because why should your organization be trusted? Make it clear in your marketing why you should trust my organization. And I've seen that, that longevity does trust. This is something that has been a longstanding known fact, I will say, especially within the Black community, because I see places that are like, established in 1923. And for a person like me that sees that, honestly, that just means that me nor my ancestors could, eat there or shop there or, patron them in whatever manner. And I'm not to say that anyone should be ashamed of whenever they were established, but your established date is not why I trust you. Who you are today is why I trust you. What to offer me today and how you are making a difference in the community is why I should trust you. But your marketing strategy needs to start with trust. So if we're going to get individuals to trust us, these that we need to do, and these are the steps that we need to take in order to actually have individuals lean into the conversation that we're trying to have. But if they do not trust us, and if we have betrayed their trust sometime in the future, we have to fix that before we start on a new marketing solution, to show equity and inclusion, because it will definitely convey. So, one of my tips on trust is to be the first to apologize. You're not always going to get it right. I said that the first time. I said that earlier, I'm sorry. And I stand by that. You're not going to get it right the first time, or maybe the second time. You may not ever truly feel like you've gotten it right. But if you don't, and you feel as if you wronged someone, be the first to apologize publicly. Your social media is a public space to apologize. Your stories on Instagram is a space to apologize even. You'd be surprised how many individuals can see a story in 24 hours before it's deleted. I don't suggest that as a way, because of course it's a little cowardly to say, I said it, I'm sorry that it disappeared in 24 hours. I said, oh, sorry. but definitely know that we're all working through a lot of uncertainty together, but be ready to apologize and know that you're not going to get it right. Don't buy likes and just apply to social media. You can't buy likes in any situation. So you can't find a group of individuals or say, hey, I just want all three of you guys to be on my board, you know what I mean? And then I'll have checked all these boxes, and or promise individuals things, and I know you all are all nonprofit organizations and you typically don't make financial promises to the individuals, but a lot of for-profit organizations do. For the individuals to be on their board or in a part of their organization, or in their part of their social media team, or an influencer for them on social media and other platforms, so that individuals will like them. But you can't buy that. Trust is earned. That's the only way that you're actually going to be a trusted brand or organization, is that you earn their trust. Your marketing solutions and your marketing plan coming out of this has to be laden with why individuals should trust us. Because we're going to provide this service, because we're going to provide equitable service to all the individuals that we serve. I mean, even looking at your mission statement, your vision statement, and your purpose, looking at those things very closely through the eyes of equity, and really refocusing how you're actually going to be able to service all individuals within the niche that you provide. And I'm not saying you just go out and you say, well, now we just provide everything for everyone, and I mean, that's not even reality. But if we're going to service this niche of individuals, how can we best serve all the individuals inside of this niche? Be authentic. Truly be yourself. I started this conversation with saying, I'm just who I am. You know, I don't do the take it or leave it, because I only think that you're going to take it. But I definitely am just a person that I am who I am, and that is my true authentic self. Who you see me today is who you're going to meet on next week Monday, is who you met last week Thursday, and that is really, it's huge whenever you talk about trust. It's huge. It's a big deal to be able to know that I'm going to be able to rely on this brand or this organization to be the exact same every time I want to donate to them, or every time that I use them, or every time I volunteer there, they're going to be the same. Show your work. I spoke a lot about social media when it comes to marketing, because social media is a big deal and a large part of marketing plans, but it's not everything. You know, if we're talking about showing our work, what have you done? What do your statistics say? How are you displaying that on your website when you're doing your mailers to your donors? What are you saying, or your emails to your donors? How are you showing the work that you've done? Everyone likes transparency. Transparency equals or trust equals transparency, or vice versa. If you're not being transparent, it looks like I took this money and I put it in this pocket here and I just kept it for myself. And if that's not the case, which I know that it is not, then show your work. Show what you've actually been doing with the money that they have given to you. I know a lot of organizations say, you know, your dollars help purchase this many backpacks, or, you know, for this $20 monthly donation, you'll be able to provide these things. That sounds really great, because you're telling me what I will be able to do. Now show me. Did the dog get adopted? Did the house get built? Did the children, you know, get a backpack? All of those things are ways that you can definitely show your work that help build trust in your organization. And lastly, if you don't believe in it, then don't do it. Plain and simple. If it is not something that your organization can stand behind every single day, then it is best that you not do it at all, because you will be called on the carpet so hard, and it will be so hard to try to defend yourself against something that you never believed in the first place. So it is time to have that open, very hard conversation. Pull all the elephants, the pink, the purple elephant, the white elephant, into the room, stuff them all in there, close the door, and have the conversation about what does your organization believe in? Who are you today? And how are you going to market to a more equitable future? It is so important to the longevity and the future of every single nonprofit organization in our city. So I want to thank you guys so much for taking time to hear about some of the ideas that I have on equity in creating your marketing solutions. Of course, I have plenty of handles, and I would love you to follow me on all of them. Of course, I'm the CEO and founder of Joint Effort. As I stated, we're a forensic marketing firm. Pivot is a tech space that we started that we'll be launching in the spring of 2021 in partnership with Google. They are a professional marketplace for individuals to find wow, I've gotten completely tongue-tied, to be able to find a business coach, a life coach, an executive coach, as well as a financial advisor, all in one marketplace, very similar to how Talkspace provides services for their therapeutic services. The Failure Report is out, started season 2 earlier actually it was last month, this is July. So we started season 2 of the Failure Report, where I interview professional failures. I love, and I'm actually obsessed about talking about failures. If I'm not doing it every day, then I've done something completely wrong. And as a business professional, I feel as if the way that we can teach others about ourselves and about how to be successful in business is to show them what not to do. So it's definitely a cautionary tale. I actually have to say this. Today, I interview Arlen Hamilton. She's a VC, a queer female Black woman VC based out of California. So excited about being able to interview her today for the Failure Report. So stay tuned for her episode, which will be coming in the future weeks. Leading in Color is a podcast that I co-host with Marta Miranda Straub. And right now I was telling Mer, we're having a problem with our RSS feed. I don't know what's going on with that, but I definitely will rectify that. And hopefully before the end of this day, we'll have that feed back up and going if you all would care to listen to that. And the Ambition Planner has been my quarantine project, which has turned, you know how you always say, I'm just going to start this little craft, and then it becomes this big monster. That's the one. I created a daily planner for women of faith, and it combines your spirituality, your affirmations, things that you're grateful for, all in your daily calendar, along with setting your SMART goals in within a 90-day planner. It's been extremely exciting. I've never launched a physical product for myself. Well, maybe podcast or physical product, but it's been a lot of fun. So I would love for you guys to follow me on all of our social media platforms. We can be found at whatever the name is of the company. We can be found there on social media, which we've gotten really lucky at being able to capture all of those names. But I definitely wanted to use the rest of this time for our question and answer. I've said a lot, I've spoken a lot. I hope I haven't offended anyone, but I definitely wanted to be able to open the floor for questions. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen where you can put your question. We ask that individuals use that space as opposed to the chat space for their questions. So I will be there waiting for any of your questions that you have on how to get individuals to know, like, and trust you, and how that needs to be the 3 pillars that you create your new marketing strategy on as you are infusing equity into your new marketing strategy. So I will give you all a little while to submit any of the questions that you have.
Well, thank you, Deon. Oops, a little blurry there. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you all have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A box, and we'll be happy to pass them along to Deon to get her to answer them. One of the things, just to maybe get our conversation going, that maybe I would throw out there to you is, you know, this notion that early on you showed a slide of your Instagram page, and you know, the honest comment that the social media manager had about just not knowing what to say, and that made me think, because I think there's a lot of folks in the community, you know, in charge of social media or marketing, that when all this stuff came down, not knowing what to say around, you know, how they feel, how to take a stand. I'm wondering, what's your take? Like, I was thinking, like, what if they went back to the organizational values and used that as a foundation from which then to craft something? Do you think that might have a, you know, that way I think it would come out as more trustworthy and more real and grounded, because it's something that they know that they can't, no matter whether you agree with them or not, it is what it is, and it's you know, it kind of serves as a foundation. Just was wondering about that.
Yeah, I love that. And that is really what a lot of organizations have done. You know, they have found themselves to say, absolutely, this is who we are. This is what our foundation is. This is our mission. This is why we were established and started in the first place. And going back to square one, because I know that a lot of us feel like we're starting over anyway. It's a great place to start. Why did I do this? Why did I start this? Why is this important? And why should you honestly think it's important as well? Reminding individuals why it is important, you know, to donate, or even to be a part of, or to volunteer, you know, for the organization. I think it's imperative. It's imperative to our future success. But that's where you can start on what to say. And then whenever individuals start leaving comments and things like that, then you can start that, you know, maybe harder, tougher conversation. And I'm not saying that individuals have to come out, you know, with, you know, a black power fist, you know what I mean? And they're, you know, we're feeding children, you know, that's what we do. We want to stay in our space. We're not trying to get in anyone else's space. But at the same exact time, being able to say, if this comes up, if someone is asking, if this is something that, you know, is important for us to say, that we feel honored in the space to be able to say it. Great. But getting back to that is important. Yeah, most definitely.
All right, well, we got some questions that coming through. So Ward asked about the social media handles, and Deon's posted them in the chat. So if you are looking for her social media handles, you can find that in the chat box. We'll also be able to provide that when we follow up with you with our email and the recording. So Megan has a question. She is a one-person marketing team for a very small nonprofit. What's your advice on researching our donor audience so I can better tailor our content?
Yeah, wow, that's a good question. I would honestly start by asking them. If you're saying that they're not necessarily engaged on social media or on your website. So if you've identified how they are engaged, if they prefer a letter, or or call them and find out, hey, I wanted you all to know that we have a social media page and I would really love for you all to follow us. Can I send you all the information on how to be able to follow us with just one click? Being able to engage them and ask them about to do those things. It's so interesting because even when we create social media posts, as I'm sure Megan knows, you want it when you want to engage your audience, you ask them a question. So it's raining today, but I'm really getting, a lot of stuff done. Hey, what is an ambitious goal that you all are working on today? Question mark. You know what I mean? The moment that you ask the question is the moment that you honestly get the response. So it's taking the time and asking how they would like to be best, how to engage with them the best. Or if you want them to engage with you on social media, to ask them to follow you, ask them to like your content. You know what I mean? And you'd be surprised that individuals really would like to, and that's the place where you're able to then show your work, which is important to future donors, current and future. That's a great question, Megan.
And she has a second follow-up to that. So what do you do if your donors aren't necessarily engaged with their social media or website?
Yeah. And so that's what I was saying is really, that was the kind of the answer to that second part, is just to ask them to be, is that if we're having our new items on our website, tell them about it. We have a new donor page, or we've launched a new blog, or our newsletter is coming out bi-monthly, asking them in whatever medium that you normally communicate with them in, to then also to follow you on those social media pages or on your website. So if they're subscribed to your website, and then they get access to your newsletter that comes out on a monthly basis. It is very difficult to call individuals if they're not responsive to emails and things like that. But again, it's a rainy Thursday. What else we got to do? Let's call some donors and ask them to follow us on social media. Taking an hour out of your day to engage with them like that means absolutely everything. And we think about it for ourselves. It means everything to us as well. So that's what I would try.
Great. So I'm hearing a lot of surveys. So if you're wanting to, align, know, like, and trust, just reaching out to them, maybe surveying them, giving a phone call seems to be a good approach, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. That's exactly how. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And then Dean had a question about researching donor prospects. I know there's a bunch of resources out there that one can look up. There are organizations that will actually do like a wealth search, for a cost to see, who's out there. That's usually done for larger campaigns, like a capital campaign or something. Do you have any thoughts or any other ideas about the donor prospects?
Yeah, absolutely. The more visible you are, the more individuals are going to be able to see you, and they can start kind of falling into that funnel. I hate using that word. I can't believe I just said it. It gets such a bad rep, people in your buyer funnel, but truly they fall inside. So the moment that they see you on the news, or they read your press release, or they saw you on social media, or you were active on LinkedIn, or that somebody was asked to volunteer there, or you showed up at, they're going to then get to know you. Asking those individuals and staying in contact with those individuals are how you build a grassroots, donor base. I definitely know of a lot of the services that Merv was speaking about, especially for like large capital campaigns. But when you're looking for those good, solid, recurring donations, where somebody's sending you $100 a week or $100 a month, it starts with just Joe Blow. Sorry for all the Joe Blows out there, but he's my common guy that I always go to say, Joe wants to donate. Joe's just never been asked. And so asking your individuals to give you, to donate is just important. I have a really easy formula. It's super easy to remember, especially whenever you're using social media, is to give, ask. When you're posting on social media, if you're giving information about what you do, if you're giving them information about how your organization has grown exponentially over the past extra months, and then you're asking them to give, they're going to feel more inclined, and you can repeat that formula every 3 posts. So you know how your Instagram post is in a 9 grid? You ask them to give, you give something to them, you give something to them, and then you ask them to give something to you. Using that formula every single time, you'd be surprised of the donors that will just come out of following the information that you provide. If it's educational, if it's informative, if it speaks to that persona, really identifying who that person is and how they want to be spoken to is imperative, because then you'll know how to find that grassroots donor. But we definitely do a lot of research on like companies in and out of our area to then identify how those individuals are being spoken to and how to implement that into a marketing plan for you to help you with success. So we do, as an organization, as an agency, that's how we find donors. And it's, of course, it's forensic, but but a very easy way for, like Megan is saying, someone that is a one-person individual that can definitely, follow that formula. Give something, ask them to give back.
Perfect. Love it. Charlotte chimed in with a question here. Do you have any suggestions for turning social media followers into donors?
Yes. I honestly have seen this happen really, really easily, especially with Instagram. And Facebook. I will not say that Facebook isn't also a good space for it, but having online fundraisers right now is it's going really well. Honestly, individuals don't have to come. They don't get that plate of chicken. They don't feel like they've paid for the speaker and all of those things. They're really enjoying it. Asking your followers to actually give money to you is just that simple. We're going to have a virtual fundraiser. We have a virtual, Fun Friday or Finance Us Friday or whatever you'd like for it to be, and ask individuals to give a $5 donation. This is what we do every single Friday, or every, Tipsy Tuesday. I'm sorry, now I'm just making things up. But asking people to give things, asking your followers to donate to you is just as easy as just putting it into your social media and asking them to honestly do that. And it's just a part of that formula. As long as you're giving to them, asking them for something in return it's just how the world goes around. You give and you receive.
Right. And, now that it's a lot harder, back in the day, people can, volunteer at your organization, like, sometimes physically. Right now it's mostly virtual. So, so engagement on that level, usually starts with the volunteers, and then you can kind of massage them into becoming donors at some point. Do you have any suggestions or ideas of how to maybe engage them on a different level even before they might become donors, just on a get to know you basis?
Yeah. And before I answer that question, Merv, the other thing that just popped back into mind
Yeah.
is asking your current followers to also ask their followers to follow your organization. I create posts and send them out in an email and ask individuals to put this on your timeline. I support this organization. I stand with this organization. Will you stand with me? You know what I mean? Because individuals like you, they're going to like the things that you like, because you become that micro influencer. So if Megan likes him, sorry, Megan, Charlotte likes him. I'm sorry, I've been picking on Megan. But if Charlotte likes them, then they must be good. You know what I mean? Because she always knows the good organizations to follow, and she's so active in our community and all of those things. The moment that happens is the moment that you really start kind of moving that ball forward. But as far as volunteering or getting organizations involved, because they're not able to sometimes come into your building, if you have something that they can do in that manner, it really is going to be asking them to help other individuals know about their organization. Everybody knows that nonprofits are suffering right now. Everyone, that's the first thing that people worry about. No one worried about Amazon. Nobody worried about Walmart. Everyone was like, the arts, the nonprofit that I'm so passionate about. You know what I mean? Coming out and asking those organizations like, hey, you know what, we can't do these things anymore. I hate that we can't volunteer, in person any longer, but this is what you can do to continue to support us. You know what I mean? You can drop these things off. I live in Old Louisville. It's very close to La Casita. And they're always like, hey, bring some black beans over, and leave them on the front porch. That is the way that you're not able to physically be able to volunteer any longer, but you can definitely, continue to support our mission or the individuals that we serve. It's going to take just getting creative. You know what I mean? Sitting around looking at the service that you offer and now the deficit that you have, and identifying how individuals can still provide that service without actually having any physical contact or limiting their contact with individuals.
No, that's great advice. I would, because in many ways that that accelerates the whole trust factor, right? So if you have folks
Yes,
kind of
yes.
reposting and retweeting and stuff, and you say, well, if Deon likes it, I trust her. So then, I imagine, these are,
Mhm.
this is a good organization, right? So,
Yeah, yeah. And that's how we trust everything. You know what I mean? I've heard people say, I've always used Shell gas because my daddy used it. You know what I mean? If someone says it's good, then it has to be good because I trust this person. You know what I mean? That's actually a true story. My dad is a Shell gas person, and he's like, "Why would you put BP gas in your car? You're gonna tear it up."
uh,
But that's just how that works,
uh,
definitely.
folks, if you have any additional questions, please, we have a couple more minutes here before we end today. But one of the things that has come up in light of all the racial equity and justice work coming out of this time period, is the way, because marketing and fundraising are two sides of the same coin, right? So, I know we've all had and participated in a bunch of fundraisers, galas, dinners, luncheons, back when we were all doing that live and in person. And we would see the videos in between the salad and the chicken, or maybe
Yeah.
chicken and the uh, the dessert or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
it would always the narrative in the story has often been told is one of need.
Mhm.
So, we'd have the clients, the people we serve, they're all kind of in this, very needy, often weak or maybe incapable space. And then,
Mhm.
wouldn't you as a donor want to help lift them up? So it was that kind of, narrative of storytelling that so that, you pull on these heartstrings, right? And so people,
Right,
like,
right.
at the end of the dinner, at the envelopes on the table, people can write.
That's right.
But there's been a lot of discussion and thought around that, whether or not that's really the right way to approach it, especially now, given a heightened sense of awareness about what's going on around equity in throughout our country. So the notion of, like, maybe addressing the systemic issues. So why are these folks the way they are?
Yeah,
Why is this situation happening? Well, you could say,
right.
we can call out redlining, we can call out economic disparities, wealth inequality, and stuff like that. I
Mhm.
mean, granted, that doesn't sound as sexy, right, as
Yeah, yeah.
you know individuals, but what's your feelings or thoughts and take around the kind of narrative and how we talk about, either from a marketing standpoint or a storytelling standpoint, and then using that to help raise funds.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I've made those videos for organizations. I've been in them. I've narrated them. I'm very familiar with that somber music that we have. But really, what we've had to identify is that there's a certain way that you market to donors, and there's a certain way that you market to, like, volunteers, or even those that you serve. And it's really figuring out how to merge those two, because my message shouldn't be any different from those that we serve, and saying, hey, are you this? Are you that? Are you this? You could probably use our organization to be able to better you in whatever, your life. That message should then kind of bleed over. And this is the time to really show your work, in that if the somber, the somber music is appropriate because you've actually been able to help, dogs that have been neglected and left by the river, thrown in the trash can, then show your work. You know what I mean? Like, I hate that it is what it is, you know what I mean? But this is the work that we do, and this is the service that we provide, and this is how your monies help us. It's a continued conversation. I really truly do not know how we're going to get away from that, because if this is what I do, is it saying that I'm not being fair by not showing my donor how they're, this I help poor Black children in this demographic. So this is the service that we provide. Is it not fair to show you all that, between dessert and in the coffee? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's a really hard one, and I feel like there's a lot of research still to be done on how donors feel about that conversation, because I have to admit that it has worked. It's worked for years. You know what I mean? And so do we abort it because it makes us feel some type of way? Or do we change our narrative in that this is not, they're not in need, they have hope. We are hope dealers. You know what I mean? We give hope to these individuals, and your donations help us to continue to provide hope. So it just is, it's all about changing your adjectives and your music. And now all of a sudden the program is, the videos in between those meals has completely changed. But it is changing your idea even on how you serve and who you serve. You know, if we believe that these are helpless, hopeless people, then that's how we're going to personify them in our media. Yeah, that's a great question. It is one of those things I hate saying I don't know, but it's truly the one of those questions. I don't know how we're going to get around that. I
Mm-hmm.
have no problem with saying I don't know, I should say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Oh
just one
yeah.
of those. It's hard.
It's difficult to, but I know there's just a lot of talk and work around, addressing these, larger foundational systemic issues that have been rooted in, the history of the community, the history of our country. So,
Mm-hmm.
but that's often the, it's hard. I think it's an interesting story to tell, and probably worthwhile when we're trying to talk about root causes, and I just don't know how that translates into dollars and getting your organization funded. But
Yeah.
like I said, maybe it's a back and forth, and it's kind of
It is.
a
It's a
learning.
back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah.
All right, folks. Last call. If you have any questions for Deon today, but
I'm also going to leave my email in the chat. So if
great.
you all would like to send me a personal email, please feel free to send that over. You know, that my @ is also the handle for our website address, which is jointeffortllc.com. Of course, you can find a lot of information about the services that we provide to nonprofits and small businesses, not just in our community, but worldwide.
Great. Well, thank you, Deon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Deon, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us today. For everyone on the webinar, I will send the link to the recording so that you can replay it or share it with others you think could benefit from it. If you don't see my email by the end of the day tomorrow, please check your spam folder. If you still don't see anything, just drop me a line and I'll be happy to resend. We'll also send you a link to an online feedback form, so if you could take a couple of minutes to fill that out, we'd greatly appreciate it. And then finally, we have a few more webinars coming up in the near future. Next week, we have Beverly Bartlett from C2 Communications showing us how to stay connected in an isolating world. And then the following week, we have Nadia Shimavoyan, who is the director of the Nonprofit Repositioning Fund based out of Philadelphia, to talk about how nonprofits can foster collaboration and other strategic partnerships. Like always, you can find these programs on our events page on the website at cnp.org. So with that, on behalf of all of us here at CNPE, thank you again for joining us today. And we'll see you all again next time. Have a great day, everyone.